How do you go from micro school to movement?
If Amazon,
Yeah,
TikTok, all these social media platforms, if they are generating like $80 billion a year,
crazy.
why can't we create systems that generate profit,
Mhm.
but that profit goes to the community so we can reinvest in our children?
Right. This is a movement that's going to last for generations, hands down. I see that. I understand that.
We are taking responsibility for our children. We're taking responsibility for their education. We can't continue this way. And I know
It went from micro school to movement. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Conscious Leader podcast, where I introduce guests and I welcome guests so they can share with you how they're consciously leading as well as positively influencing their industry, their community. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Now, today I have a guest, a very special guest with me. Her name is Jeanette, and I will let her introduce herself. Hi, Jeanette. How are you?
Hi, Delisa. Thank you so much for having me. I am great because I am surrounded by so many amazing and impactful leaders, such as yourself. It has been such a blessing. And yes, so I am the founder of Refound Education. And this was crazy napkin idea. Um, those are the best, aren't
Yes,
they?
yes.
So essentially, I had opened a school originally. Um, Historically, I've been in the social service sector and education for over, it's like 25-ish years.
Well, take it
That's,
easy now. We can date you. We can know how old you are.
we're vintage, right?
Vintage. That's correct.
So I had my children in the last 3 to 4. Well, my oldest is 5, but um, being aware of the whole culture and the landscape, it was now my turn in the crazy time today to put my children in education, and I was not buying what they were selling. So essentially, I had started a micro school. And in the process of that, I collaborated with other people who starting other alternative
Mhm.
education options. And I was like, hey, who wants to work together? And there was such a huge response. We had our first conference, and there was over 33 vendors and over 240 people showed up. And it was such an amazing energy with all these amazing conscious leaders.
Mhm.
And we kept the ball rolling. And ever since, we've done 3. So I had sold the micro school to dedicate myself to this. And the idea was, if Amazon,
Yeah,
TikTok, all these social media platforms, if they are generating like $80 billion a year,
crazy.
why crazy, right? Why can't we create systems that generate profit,
Mhm.
but that profit goes to the community so we can reinvest in our children?
Right.
And essentially just revamp the entire sector and put money where it needs to go. So as opposed to top down
Yeah.
systems, which is where the problem lies, we have a bottom up system where the community dictates how resources are used, where the resources go. And because there's so much systemic corruption, and if we can work towards eliminating that corruption and really putting children at the center and focus, why not? It just seems like a no brainer. And so I've evolved the website. It's now in its second evolution process. And so now we're kind of in that investment phase because you need to reinvest.
Mm.
And so that something can grow. And we are really happy that we're starting to get this really amazing attention working together. So we have education leadership meetings. We put our intellectual acumen together so that we are sharing with each other, which means we share from each other's mistakes so we learn faster, and we can evolve the education landscape to where it needs to go, because we have crisis on top of crisis, not only education,
Mhm.
um, but ideologies that are too fringe, to um, that are not, that don't put our children's mental health in the center. And it's very important that we address these needs. And hopefully, as we work together, we can snowball and really tackle these needs and put money where it needs to go, back into community, back into the kids.
Well, I like that. Community and kids, children and community, right? You're putting it back together, and you're doing this is a movement essentially. This is not just a company that you're going to start and then it's you're going to sell, and no, this is a movement that's going to last for generations, hands down. I see that, I understand that. I'm going to ask you though, you started off, you've been an educator, as you mentioned, for about 20 years. Then got married, you have your children, and you're like, you know what, I don't like what I'm seeing from my kids. There must be a better option. So now you start your micro school, your mini school, and in that process, on a napkin, now you're like, I'm just gonna start a movement. It went from micro school to movement. Educational movement. I want, please share with the audience, how do you go from micro school to movement? How does that work?
Well, I couldn't keep both, so I had to know what my boundaries were, and my boundaries were, you can't have it all at the same time. But there's so many powerful educators, and it's kind of a crazy idea. So a lot of people don't really want to take it on and think that it's really far fetched that we can empower people. But to see I understand people are going to be very defensive of the systems that that they know.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is, I've seen behind the red curtain, so to speak. And I've mingled with all the top dogs in education, and I know how things work. And these systems are not created to benefit the kids. And I've worked with very hard to serve children, low economic families, and they deserve the best. And money is not put into certain areas to push for their success. And that needs to change, because when you do invest,
Mm-hmm.
it elevates society as a whole. Um, and I'm really committed to that. And given that my son is on the spectrum, there are so many kids with neurodivergent needs, kids that don't have the skills to be productive members of society. But if they are poured into in a way by loving people, we can really, because right now society is going in a direction that's very concerning.
Yeah.
And our children they don't have the backbone, they don't have the skills to take this on, and it's going to snowball and become worse if we don't do this. In our generation, we have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have the backbone,
Yeah.
and it is our responsibility to leave this legacy and to be surrounded by so many conscious educators and leaders that are saying, like, no, we are taking responsibility for our children, we're taking responsibility for their education. It's very heartwarming, because these systems are not, they kill creativity. They don't, if you're a hardworking educator, you don't get a bonus.
Yeah.
Bare minimum is like that's what's kind of left,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not something that you build a legacy on. And we need to really focus on what it's going to take. And I know people are scared of privatization, but think of it in this way: these are all small business owners. When you invest in the small business owners, when you invest local, they will reinvest by investing in their children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like it greases the wheel itself, because, like, for example, I will reinvest in Delisa. Delisa will
Yeah.
reinvest in me. She'll invest in someone else. Someone else will invest. Like, it becomes this exchange where we're supporting each other, and we're sharing wealth, abundance, community, connection,
Yeah.
communication, um, because we can't continue this way. And I know coming, tearing down, it's not tearing down these systems, but these systems are no longer serving
Yeah.
us. And so, what can we do, right?
100%, and that's where you step in. What can we do? And you're creating
Like,
that option. But you're
take
right.
action.
There are systems in place, and we see this. You can go on IG, TikTok, any one of them, and they're talking about how the education system is um, not serving. And then you're seeing lots of people who are top of their game saying, you know what, I should have homeschooled my children. They're actually saying that. I should have put my child somewhere else. Or they're saying, you know what, I should have focused on trades when my children were younger. Not because they're not smart or anything. They're brilliant kids, but this would have been a better avenue for them to help support their growth, to cultivate it. So, what you're doing as part of your movement, creating community, but you're also, making people employable. You're making them take ownership and becoming entrepreneurs because that is huge, right? With the entrepreneurship, that investment, you're investing in a generation that's going to reinvest in the community, and that builds the economy. People do not recognize what, like, or a lot of people don't fully understand when the people are educated, when they are equipped and skilled in a specific task or trade or whatever it is, it builds the economy because now they can do a job. Now they can start a business. Now they can employ people. So your movement, yes, is putting into the community and helping the next few generations, but you're also helping to boost the economy because of the educational piece that's happening. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. And these resources cost money.
Yeah.
Like our EAs are paid poverty, and these are the ones that are nurturing our child's souls, or all these people. Like they deserve to be paid so that if people in positions with children can support their
Mhm.
families, they feel good. That goodness will be poured into the kids, and there's that sense of reciprocity, right, that starts to build. And a lot of people are homeschooling, and I hear the homeschoolers say like everyone can do it, and yes, they can. However, I do believe that there is different worlds
Yes.
of different socioeconomic statuses.
Mhm.
So, um, one personal story is I grew up in a rough neighborhood. So I was, of the lower socioeconomic
Mhm.
realm. And, but my mother she cleaned houses, and and a lot of them she had raised their children, they were connected to her and that kind of thing. So they invited us to some of these events, and she didn't speak English very well. She had a fourth grade education, and she had a lot of anxiety. And I'm like, Mom, why do you even bring us to these things? Like, if it makes you so nervous, what's the point? And she's like, I want you to see a world that I'll never be able to give you.
Mhm.
And so it's one of those things where I was able to see that
Yeah.
world, but living in a lower socioeconomic working, a lot of these kids don't have access, and we need to improve that access so they can fill in some of those skill gaps that their parents might not have, because we all have skill set gaps regardless. Um, but depending on where you came from, what you had access to, that could, interfere. And we always want to give our kids more.
Mhm.
And if we work as a community, we can give these kids more.
Mhm. Mhm.
And because then there's that exchange, right? It's because some, like a single mom who doesn't have access to, more like finances, if their kid's into robotics, but they can't pay for the program, they should be able to take that program. And we want to improve that. And I think it could change the world. I know it won't be quickly.
Well, that's why it's called a movement, right? It takes time. A movement takes time, right? It's every day. Every day you gotta stay the course. What you're doing is powerful. It's incredible. It is encouraging. It's inspiring. I want to talk about the community that you're building in the online community where you have teachers, educators, business owners, parents who are part of this community uniting together. How do you, as you know, because you're the light, right? You're holding it all together for them. You've created this space. How is creating that space and cultivating that sense of empowerment, of encouragement? How is that? How do you do that?
I don't do it alone. Nobody does anything alone. It's impossible. This would never be possible as someone by themselves. There are always people that are helping and doing what they can. We're a startup, so I do a lot of the background independently, but it doesn't mean that. So, what we do is we meet, we share loopholes, whether it's financial, marketing,
Mhm.
systemic things where we can. Just share some of those loopholes. Those loopholes have a lot of value.
Yeah.
Think about like ways to avoid paying taxes, right? Or think how you can structure your business, or a lot of things that people have not necessarily been taught because our systems don't teach financial literacy as
Mhm.
well, right? And we have to trickle those skill sets to our children. It's just being we just have an exchange. That exchange gets us to consistently grow, and so that's why we have a few groups, and we're actually expanding. So we had to separate our brand a bit, and we're going to be further developing the next realm, which is so Refound Education is mainly to promote the programs
Mhm.
and to connect them to families, but Limitless edX is going to be just that, an exchange of limitless educational opportunities where we are going to be doing the business management side,
Mhm.
because a lot of us are doing it for the first time
Mhm.
together, and Delisa does an amazing job about like being empathic in a position of leadership. Just what kind of leader do you want to be? And just really reflecting and sharing with each other things that work, things that don't work, and having that dialogue. And it's not something that you have to. We do the meetings once a month, we do online, and then we have some chats, and we're going to be growing that, even taking it one step further and developing a few groups so that people can just do an exchange of information openly.
Yeah.
And then we do have a private group. Not all loopholes are made public. We will be sharing some more marketing tips too, so that people can, because there's creative marketing opportunities,
Mhm.
and it's hard to be seen and heard, and especially in the information age. And social media does have its benefits from a business perspective, but it's also, it's a very saturated
Yeah.
industry. So a lot of us actually share and engage with each other. So, and we refer each other. So some education programs even have referrals where you can get paid anywhere from $100 to $2,000 for a referral. Um, and like that, we can start boosting each other's programs. Um, and educators are just so supportive. So when you post something, like it, share it with someone,
Mhm.
write a positive comment, and those small actions, you think, oh, no big deal, but it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Anytime you purchase a swag, anytime you purchase like Faith and Sparkle's World Book, anytime um, we do a dance, like when you invest, and think about, I really want people to start thinking about where they put their money,
Mhm.
how they invest, because these things do take investment. And the, we'll say, powers that be, they know they need to invest in innovation, and I think we need to put it onto community
Mhm.
to really focus their energies on where, how to use your money efficiently so that these programs can grow. And I it's going to change. I know 15 states in the US have given families their money for education choice.
Yeah.
um, there will be strings attached, but I do think there is something, foundationally speaking, especially with the transition given the tough economic times. But for those that are interested in maybe is starting to engage, you can engage slowly and it's going to be phased in. So really start, like maybe start with the program, work part-time in alternative school. If you wanted to
Mhm.
supply teach, we have a supply teaching roster. Please connect with us. And we just exchange with each other. And we're just slowly building community. And it just, like you said, it takes time.
Well, yeah, and that move. This is the power move here. It's a strategy move, and in so I have a another program called Boss Chronicles where I unpack leadership materials. That's and I literally I read books once a week and talk about the book. I go through the insights, the top tips, what you're doing from a business perspective as an entrepreneur makes a lot of sense. Yes, Refounded Ed, when it first started off, it was to help families, it was helping parents, and of course, educators come on board and if they're building a business. But as you mentioned, there are so many people that are starting a business, but they have zero clue on even what that means. How do I write a proposal? How do I do marketing? How do I, a lot of people just say, oh, well, just post it. Well, you know, yes, and also no, because there's so many factors that go into it. Um, who are you going to hire? Are they trusted? What are you going to be teaching? What's your curriculum going to be like? There are all of these different things. And then on top of that, how do you make your business a business with consistent clients? And part of what you're doing, that referral piece makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. There is a school in my community. They've been around for 30 years, I think 35 years or something like that. They started off as a daycare. So it's old. The school is older than, no, I'm older than the school, but it started, no, I'm old, a lot older than the school. But it started off as a daycare, and then, but that was the best daycare, and everyone know that was the best daycare. And I think it moved on to going into the school where they would take like grade ones, grade twos. Now they take all the way up to grade eight, and they have a second location for daycare, and it's a private school now. But when they started off, I think it was, I don't know if it was public, I'm not sure. It was just like a daycare center or a private daycare center. And then they evolved over 30 years, 30 some odd years being a pillar in the community. And, it's a nice school, it's a good school, but I could see exactly where you're going with this, right? And, you got to, business owners, entrepreneurs need to understand how to run a business and how to partner with other people, and will this partnership work. So please share with us a bit more about this expanded enterprise that's under the refounded education, which is called Limitless. And with Limitless, where do you see it going in 5 years?
That's a great question. So, as we develop further, it'll be more of a support for the management side. So, we're expanding on our services like business
Mhm.
plans, investor pitches, summary investor pitches, like all the like processes, how to document those processes, because these schools are growing and they're doing such an amazing job. Some of these schools started with like 4 kids and have grown to multiple locations. They're winning awards, and it's just absolutely glorious.
Yeah, yeah.
And but some of these schools have just been, don't feel like you always need to know where you're going or you need to know
Mhm.
everything. Because even as I mingle with investors and mingle with, it takes time to build these
Yeah.
relationships, and along the way in building these relationships you're learning. My It's like my brain, there was acid poured on my brain. Everything is just like very, you're learning at rapid rates, and this information exchange is almost like unlocking these doors inside of you, and you're exchanging and collaborating with others. And it doesn't, collaborations don't always need to be a business partnership. You can collab in different ways. It can be in small ways, it can be in big ways. I do encourage people to be ethical and kind and
Mhm.
conscientious, because when it's very community centered too, your reputation,
Yeah.
not necessarily you have to appease everyone, but you also have to be aware that we all have a reputation to be mindful of. And, the way we connect with people, we should do so with as much kindness as possible. And that, accept boundaries, understand that people are going to transition and change. Um, and just, the direction that the education management side will go is to help people with this transition and just help them understand that it's okay, and that if you need certain services, if you need certain supports, if you need certain connections, we are here to support you with that, because financial literacy might be outside of your realm of
Yeah.
expertise, but you really want to address it. Well, let's connect with someone who can support you with that. There are just so many opportunities, and sometimes having a voice or doing a collab where someone else, even if you have the knowledge,
Yeah.
like some knowledge base, bringing another voice, another person to be a buffer of
Mhm.
sorts. But it's kind of like when you're a mom talking to your
Yeah.
child, you're kind of like the old shoe sometimes, especially if you have teenagers. But sometimes bringing, someone else in, and even like me, I have a lot of business knowledge, but if I bring outside people and
Yeah.
they're supporting and we're giving similar messages, and the repetitive nature and the supportive nature of multiple people means that we're all spreading, our knowledge and our heart and our soul, and it becomes just this natural exchange and snowball effect
Yeah.
that keeps us going and moving forward. And we're always there to provide solutions. We're solution focused always. um,
Yeah.
and so I do think it's going to grow to other, there are so many more ideas, and you will see them evolve as investment
Mhm.
starts to come in, and as we build relationships, people will start to realize, hey, this is possible. Maybe all of you guys aren't so crazy.
Well, and the system that you're building right now and the community, I shouldn't even say it's not, it's, I mean, there are systems involved, but the community that you're building, it's backed with results, right? For like Limitless is backed with results, as you said. And I know some of the schools that you're talking about not only has won award, but has been invited to share their expertise and their wisdom with other educators and other uh, potential business owners, and some business owners who want to perhaps open up their own school or do their thing. And so you're coming from not only your own personal experience and knowledge, but from the business side, the community that you're coming with as well, the results that was given, the support that you gave to them and them in turn to you. That's the results that you're coming with. That's what you're backing up Limitless with. And that is empowering. That is powerful. And I agree with you 100%. You can have as much wisdom and knowledge and all of these things, but sometimes bringing in that other person into exactly what we're doing now, having this conversation, the audience that is used to hearing me, now they're hearing another voice saying it maybe the same thing in a different way, but now they can connect the points together. Now they're listening because they're like, oh, I like this. Oh, I love this talk, and they gained some knowledge from it, and they can implement it. Before we wrap up, I have a couple of more questions regarding Limitless. You spoke about having certain people in positions, right? So to help best support entrepreneurs, because that's who they are, right? The entrepreneurs of these schools and such. Why did you model it after kind of like a corporation? Or is it modeled after a corporation?
Well, it's one of those things from a business structural perspective. It makes sense to be a for profit.
Yes.
And then the goal will have, charitable arms. And then for other people to have charitable arms,
Yes.
so we can start to do an exchange. And profits don't have to be a bad thing.
No.
And a corporate structure in this case would make sense,
Mhm.
because then we can start. It's just the systemic structure in today's world. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But as a, unified front, we've been able to get educators like a discounted insurance, um, health
Mhm.
benefits, all kinds of options that as we start to work together, because these are very grassroots options, but if we work together, we can come from an enterprise discount
Yeah.
perspective and start garnering more perks. And because we have the more people, the more perks, the more power we have. But the great thing is we're still very separate. Separate means it's harder to control,
Mhm.
which is actually there's a beauty in that. But there's a choice, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to be a part of us. You choose to
Right.
be like a part. And you can connect with anybody. You don't have to love everybody, but we can all connect with other people. And we're going to put structures in place that make sense so that we can get the largest benefit. There's business structures in place, like IKEA is a charitable organization, Rolex is a charitable organization. And that business structure works for them because of the countries they're in, or different things. And so you just have to be mindful. But if we're aware from a business sense, then we can structure things appropriately. And as we connect with all the schools and stuff, we can figure out ways to do that. So like one way, a school there, we have some schools that are they have a charitable arm, and so they can provide half the tuition cost as a charitable donation, which they reinvest in their school. So it's not, far fetched to have a charitable arm because it's constantly being
Right.
reinvested. The parents, have some compensation. What do? They reinvest in
Mhm.
their kids' education and in camps and that kind of thing. So it's a one hand washes the other, and you just have to be. There's lots of ways that we can work together to figure out what works best for our individual organizations, and yeah, and you know what, we are doing something right because we are getting an award for education leadership.
Congratulations.
Woohoo! At Education 2.0 in Las Vegas.
Yes.
um,
Mhm.
so we have a discount code because of the, oh Jacob, I forgot your podcast, EdUp.
Mhm.
I will accelerated learning. No, accelerated excellence. I'm sorry, Jacob. So he shared his discount code
Mhm.
EDUP10, and that'll get you 10% if you guys want to come and mingle and network. And we're really excited to see where this is going to go because we've had a lot of interest in the U.S. Um, we've had some investment offers from like Pakistan and India.
Right. Wow.
I was like, oh no, let's save Canada first because we need a strong
Yes.
foundation before we expand. But I'm really excited to see where this goes. We even have some schools that might be expanding to have like jungle schools or um,
Yeah. I
right.
love it.
So who knows where this will go? And I feel like we don't really need to know. We'll just kind of roll with the flow. And I encourage people to be brave and roll with it.
Yeah. And I'm glad I asked that question about the corporate structure because that led into my next question about you going international and being able to serve an international community. But you already answered it. So it works out great. And that makes a lot of sense, right? When you're growing, you have to be strategic in your movements, and you have to pay attention. Where do I need to be? Am I established? Is my foundation rooted firmly? Because if you start bringing in all these other things and there's no support system, it can easily crash. And so what you're doing is laying the foundation. You laid the foundation, but you're fortifying it at this point. You're bringing in other support from the community that needs it. You're collaborating and partnering with other investors that are saying, yes, I know that the school system needs, the educational system needs a shakeup, and let's support this. And to get interest from India, Pakistan, Asia, perhaps even the UK, that is huge. That is huge, indeed huge, because I mean, when you think of like Pakistan, India, or Asia, they're following a British system, right? And that system has been in place for like centuries. But at the same time, what you're proposing it may not everybody is ready for that just yet. They're not necessarily primed. And so you taking into account where your business is at, you're taking into account who you can serve, right? Right now, and where it's going to maximize benefit, but still keeping the eye, the vision on the future and saying, okay, let me wait for you to be a bit more primed because you got to start dripping the content, dripping the information in there so that it goes into people's consciousness. Because let's not forget, we talked about you moving from a micro school to a movement, and a movement takes a while.
And I think we need to be really focused on what your goal and vision
Yeah.
is, because not all money is good money. It's not like we've been offered investment, but I think it's about not losing that vision, because the vision is bottom up, community at its center.
Yes.
A lot of people want a top down approach to keep certain power things in play. And so the proposal in itself, people, um, it's welcomed, but it's also like, people are a little worried, but I think it's really beautiful, because when it comes to kids, you have to be careful when it comes to expansion. Kids attract predators and other, unsavory
Mhm.
characters, and you need to do so conscientiously. And you can't go into places where you're not aware of the culture, how things are
Yes.
structured, and you can't do so. You can't just expand so too quickly, because you will lose everything,
Yes.
and it will fall apart.
Mhm.
So, and then what happens is I'm so blessed to be surrounded by these strong leaders, so that when we need support from each other, when we need to be vigilant, when we need to be, you have already strong trailblazers in place that can take on certain roles,
Yeah.
or like part-time, full-time, or depending on how things evolve, people can figure out like and support where it needs to go, and it'll be that collective, and it'll stay as like a close-knit collective.
Hmm. And that makes sense. And the best part is, as I mentioned, and as you mentioned, you have these partnerships and collaborations with men and women from the beginning when you first started Refounded, who was there with you, who have gone on and won awards. And if I'm not mistaken, one was offered Dubai at one point, where there was that. Yeah, you know.
That's Agora Prep,
Yeah.
Sylvia, she has a school for neurodivergent kids. And like an example of exchange is, and just how positive people are. She's like, hey, I'm getting an award and you deserve to be there and you've worked so hard and I want you to come with me. And then I went with her and we supported each
Mhm.
other. And it just became like a chain of events that started to happen. And one, like a feedback that we got is how we supported each other. So if she was speaking to someone in the networking event, or if I was, we were always supportive of each other, speaking positively about each other. And people took notice. It was interesting that they had mentioned it.
Yes.
Um, and I find that we have that reciprocity in this education group, where we're constantly promoting each other, constantly, like a parent that knows a parent who, there's just like, oh, I know this person. And you have this constant, you know, small group, or small business mindset of supporting one another. And I think we can't lose it, even if something is structured as corporate. The people make the difference. And without the people, everyone's we're nothing.
Yeah.
So
So there
to
you
be
go.
focused on, yeah, be that support network to each other.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing with myself as well as, the community what you're up to and how you are not only consciously leading, not only positively influencing, but how your movement is going to maximize a generation for the better. They're positively being influenced to serve from their highest potential. And that takes heart out of all the strategy, all the tools, all the other things. It takes heart to do that because the work is much, the hands are little. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And your support is phenomenal and the work that you do. And I'm so blessed to have you in my life. So thank you. And I'm honored to be here. So please be sure to follow our website is www.refounded.ca, and it's our social medias. We're pretty much on
Yes.
everything at Refound Education or at Refound Ed. And our email is info@refounded.ca. And then Limitless edX, we are on Instagram. We will be developing a group on LinkedIn and Facebook, but that's we're going to keep that more
Mhm.
education focus, like on the education management side. So that'll be really focused on that and the intellectual exchange. So keep your ears peeled for that, but that's still more in development. So thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. And don't forget, everyone, if you didn't get all that information, it will be posted in the caption section so you can click and you can connect with Jeanette at Refounded Ed and or Limitless X. I hope you have a great day. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Share this with a friend. Share this with another educator that's thinking about starting their own entrepreneurial journey and need this support, need a community. Share this with a parent who need that community to be empowered so that they are cultivating the space that their children need. Have an incredible day, and I will see you on another episode of the Conscious Leader podcast. Have a great day, everyone.